Hi, my name is Michael, and you're about to learn why the stories you love are garbage. And today we're talking about The Expanse. I haven't actually seen the series. I started but dropped it before finishing the first episode. But I did read the first book, and that is what we're going to talk about. Now, to reiterate, I don't know if the problem I see in the first book, the very problems that made me not continue to the other books, are also present in the series. I just don't know. Adaptations sometimes fix the issues in the source material. In fact, it's possible to make a good adaptation of a bad book. I've seen it happening. So, nothing I say applies directly to the TV series. If you think it does, that's on you. Now, the book is actually crafted pretty well. It's written in the close third person, meaning that while it doesn't say, I did so and so, it does follow a specific protagonist, and it directly tells us what this protagonist is thinking and feeling. Or, more precisely, it switches between two protagonists, Holden and Miller, dedicating separate chapters to each in turn. All of that is totally fine. There is no confusion about all this, no head hopping. It's written very cleanly and professionally. My problem is not with the quality of the writing. It's rather with the strange morality the book seems to adopt. And I think the authors weren't aware themselves there is something wrong there. Let's start with the recap though. In case you're not familiar with the setting, here is a brief overview. There are three major powers in the book. The Earth, which seems to be a single political entity, so no separate countries. Then Mars, and lastly, the Belt, which is a loose collection of colonized asteroids. All of them are populated by humans. Aliens don't appear, at least on page. No love lost between the three, but in the beginning they maintain a somewhat civil relationship. Until a Belt spaceship is attacked and destroyed, leaving only a few survivors, one of them being Holden, the first POV character. He finds evidence that the attack was perpetrated by Martian armed forces. Holden believes that information should be free, so instead of examining the evidence some more, investigating maybe a little, he just releases it to the wild, transmitting to the whole world. Miller, who is a police detective on one of the asteroids, sees the transmission, as well as billions of other people, and immediately realizes it would spark a war between Mars and the Belt, which is exactly what happens. All of that is perfectly fine from the storytelling perspective. The protagonist unwittingly triggering a global catastrophe is not an original way to start, but certainly a good one. It's popular because it works.
You're the one that sets me free.
Here is what happens next. The survivors get on a Martian ship where Holden is presented with the outcome of his actions. He's made aware that his transmission ignited the pre-existing tensions and killed thousands already. Then the ship is attacked and destroyed. Holden and his people, -1, manage to escape on a smaller vessel that they claim as their own. They find evidence that the attack was perpetrated by Earth armed forces. Instead of examining the evidence some more, Holden transmits it to the whole world, which starts another war, now between Earth and Mars. Yeah, that man learned nothing. He does exactly the same thing again with exactly the same result. I do generally support the whole forgive them for they do not know what they do thing. And the first war that Holden started falls squarely into this category. But there are limits to everything. There is a point where stupidity and ignorance stops being a valid excuse. Even from a legal standpoint, things like gross negligence exist and can be prosecuted. Morally, it's the same. I didn't know doesn't work the second time, because the first time already created an obligation to know. If you made an honest mistake with disastrous consequences, you should at the very least stop and think about repeating your actions. Reflect a little, recognize your own fallibility, talk things over with people around you, and yes, there are other survivors around Holden, people he trusts. People were going comatose after realizing they made a mistake way smaller than this.
I was off by some fraction of a second, and this is why I killed my sister.
At this point, Holden should be locked up. Not just as punishment, although that is also in order, but as a precaution. We lock up criminally insane people not because they have to be punished, punishment would be useless, but simply because they present a threat to the others. Holden is responsible for thousands of deaths, and him repeating his mistake shows that there is nothing to stop him from doing it again. Here we meet Colonel Johnson, this book's reasonable authority figure. He is the leader of one of the asteroids and has lots of influence, which he uses to maintain peace as well as he can. Being, as I said, reasonable, he should have arrested Holden. He doesn't. What's more, when a need arises to send somebody to another asteroid as fast as possible and Holden's ship simply happens to be the fastest at his disposal, he should have seized the ship and sent one of his lieutenants. Instead, he sends Holden himself, knowing for certain that Holden is prone to messing things up on an epic scale. The book does seem at least somewhat aware of the problem, which somehow makes it even more baffling. Holden meets with Miller, our second POV character, and Miller manages to stop Holden from releasing a third piece of information that would certainly make things even worse. There is a discussion between them where Miller tries to get it into Holden's head that just telling everybody everything you come across of might not be the greatest idea ever. This is good. This is the book acknowledging the issue. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that in this conversation, Miller and Holden are presented as being on the same moral level. Despite the fact that Holden caused 2 wars, indirectly killed who knows how many people, and isn't even remotely troubled by it. He thankfully abandons the idea of transmitting the third package, but he never reflects on what he did before, and remember, we do know his thoughts and feelings. Eventually, the heroes figure out who is the big bad, and Colonel Johnson mounts an attack on the villain's castle. At the end, they confront the man who manipulated everything from behind the curtain. And
He starts monologuing.
Miller realizes that the bad guy is going to escape justice and just shoots him. And then Holden has the audacity to be mad at Miller. As in, I hate what you did. I'm too good to kill you, but I would just walk away and don't you dare ever show your face to me in the future. Reminder, Holden is still the one who is responsible for thousands of deaths. Not Miller. Miller killed one guy, probably the biggest douchebag in the solar system. Perhaps Colonel Johnson wouldn't be willing to execute a man without even putting him on trial, but it's something that arguably had to be done.
Buffy even knows that. And still, she couldn't take a human life. She's a hero, you see. She's not like us.
Again, strangely, the book kinda tries to level the field by having some random nobody tell Miller he did the right thing. It's nice, but again, what about Holden? I gave up on him having any kind of self-awareness, but why doesn't anybody tell him he's being an idiot at best? And the authors are clearly capable of writing a character who questions his own past actions. Miller does. So, couple of random notes. During the attack on the Big Bad's fortress, they encounter some scientists there who proceed to attack the heroes despite being severely outnumbered. And when the Big Bad does his monologuing, he explains this as, "We turned our scientists into sociopaths." Huh? I mean, nowhere else in the book is there any mention of people having some technology or whatever that would allow them to alter others' minds like that. More importantly, why would sociopaths, even if you take the Hollywood's version, launch a suicidal attack? Why would they try to defend their employers with their lives?
Ho, 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 ho! That's a grenade. What's the plan here?
Small room.
Oh, this is bad.
I haven't yet touched on the character of Naomi, who is one of the survivors and later a member of Holden's crew. There is a very nice scene where Holden professes his love for Naomi and she shoots him down, essentially saying, "You repeatedly fall in and out of love with various women, I want more. I need to know that this is something more stable." I really like that. I really liked Naomi in this moment. This was some quality character work. And then, when they are about to go into battle, she comes to him and says, "Remember what I said about wanting more? Forget it. Let's sleep together." So, all of that effort goes directly down the drain. The protagonist making a mistake, a grave mistake, is fine. Pretty much every protagonist worth his salt does it.
If you'd worked with us for 5 seconds, you could have stopped this.
But it needs to have consequences. The protagonist needs to feel their mistake, to internalize it, not to be rewarded for it. Throughout this book, Holden starts 2 wars, is barely prevented from starting a 3rd one, never suffers any punishment for that, snubs another for killing just 1 man, who totally deserved it, and gets a girl. Miller is the only one who disapproves, and he's portrayed as, at best, morally grey. And if we consider real outcomes, not just words, it's a protagonist-centered morality all around. And it's really sad. That's all I have to say. We'll see you next time. Bye.